This is the Plagmanrules Podcast. We're back here for some more fun on this Friday. All right, ladies and gents, welcome to today's edition of the Plagmanrules Podcast. We just have two topics to talk about today. First of all, next week we have the D-23 convention. This will be Disney's, I guess the best way to describe it. This is the Comic-Con if it was just Disney Productions. So we'll talk about maybe what will come out of it. We've got three major things from Disney. We've got their regular productions, which would be their live action films, their animated films, the Pixar stuff. We've got Star Wars, that's also under the Disney umbrella, and we've got the Marvel films as well. So all three of those will kind of take a look at what's coming up, what might be presented there, what we might see, and stuff like that. So we'll get into that here first. And then we've also got a review for Spider-Man: Homecoming that'll be on today's podcast. All right, so the first thing we're going to do here, we're going to take a look and preview what could potentially be at this year's D23 convention. D23, at least right now, the plan is it's an every other year convention. The thing is, it's a very exclusive place to get into. You have to have all sorts of clearances. You have to be from this part of the media. Very few regular people, so to speak, get in and see all the stuff. And there's a lot of security at D23. I mean, it's never going to happen. We're not going to have any leaks, because they'll show footage, they'll have demo reels. In the past, they've had some concept art, stuff like that. So we'll probably guess a few things here that might be right, a few things that might be wrong, and we'll just get a general look and see here on what's coming up on D23 and what's going to be there. Okay, so we're going to start with the Walt Disney regular films session. I'm looking now at the calendar of what they've got coming out. They have a lot of stuff on the calendar here in the next 2-3 years. So probably anything beyond the 3-year span, so anything past 2020, we're most likely not going to see anything. And actually, they only have one film slated for release in 2020 that has a title, Gigantic. I don't know what that's about. We might get something from that, but everything else we're going to talk about today is 2019 or earlier. So we just had Cars 3 come out. That's the latest kind of Disney film. So the next film they have coming out is Coco. That's coming out this November, right around Thanksgiving. They already have a preview out, so they'll probably have a new trailer or they'll have like 10 or 15 minutes of footage. They'll probably have a lot of stuff to show for that, and it is nearly done, so they'll probably have a good amount of footage in there. Now, of course, we're not going to see it until the movie comes out, maybe bits and pieces of it, but we'll probably get a new trailer for that, actually. I wouldn't be surprised if we get it in the next couple months here. Okay, so that's the last one coming out in 2017. Let's talk about some 2018 stuff. Right now, I'm looking at 7 films that are slated for release that have titles, and one film that's slated for release in August of 2018 that does not have a title yet. The first one is A Wrinkle in Time, Ava DuVernay's new film. Supposedly there's been some footage shown somewhere or other or something like that, but I would imagine we're going to get some first look footage. They might even see a trailer there. But it's quite a good cast in this. We've got Oprah Winfrey, Reese Witherspoon, Mindy Kaling, Chris Pine, Gugu Mbathu-Raw, Andre Holland, Zach Galifianakis are in this. Really kind of diverse cast there. That's one where, we could definitely see some footage come out of that. That's more than just a trailer. But I think for sure we'll get a trailer on that in the next, I would say before we get to Christmas. We'll get a trailer for that. Okay, so the next film we have coming up there after that one is Magic Camp. This is one I don't know too much about. Jeffrey Tambor and Adam Devine are in it. That one's coming out in April, so we'll see about that one. There might be some footage. There might be a little... Well, I'm sure, again, that'll be another one where we see the trailer for it probably by Christmas. Right after that, we have a new Disney nature documentary film, and that's going to be on dolphins. I don't know anything about that, like who they usually have a famous celebrity who narrates the film. I don't know who they have on that one. They don't have too much info on that. But I heard last time they had this, that was, I think, the Bears one came out. That one, they had a good amount of footage to show, so maybe the same will be true here with dolphins. The next one is going to be very exciting to see, and that's The Incredibles 2. It's supposed to come out in June of next year. I really hope that we hear from the people at D23 that they have footage to show for it. And they've got, like, Brad Bird is back. You've got all the original voice cast back, at least from what I've heard. So, yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Hopefully, we hear some footage. And, again, hopefully we'll get a Christmas trailer for that one. I'm sure we will. All right, we're kind of getting toward the end of 2018 now. Mulan, a live-action remake of Mulan, is coming out. That's in early November of 2018. That one, they have Nikki Caro on board to direct that one. They haven't announced too many actors in it, at least not that I've seen, or at least not that I can recall. And to my knowledge, we also do not have any idea of whether it's began filming or not. So with that one, we might hear that they saw some concept art, that they saw some ideas on that. Next one after that is the sequel to Wreck-It Ralph. That's Ralph Breaks the Internet, which I don't know about that title, but I don't know if they have any footage ready or not. It was originally slated to come out in March of 2018, but then they pushed it back to November. Maybe in that case, they do have a little footage ready. It would probably be very short, maybe the equivalency of a teaser trailer. We're probably not going to see it till next spring, but, we'll see about that. And the last one they have for 2018 is slated for Christmas Day. That's Mary Poppins Returns. This is one, they started shooting this clear back a few months ago. They've got, just listen to this cast list here. You've got Emily Blunt, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Ben Whishaw, Emily Mortimer, Julie Walters, Meryl Streep, Colin Firth, Dick Van Dyke is back, Angela Lansbury's in there, David Warner is in there. That's just a very, very talented cast. And you've got Rob Marshall directing that one. And I think that one, since they've been shooting, and a few weeks ago they also had the Entertainment Weekly cover come out, which had some photos and stuff, they'll have footage for that one. And that might even be one where this Christmas we get the trailer for that one. Could be. They might do that one close to a year out, and they might have that ready to show this July here at D23. Okay, moving on to 2019. Here we only have 4 films that have titles that are slated for release, and we have another 4 that do not have titles yet. So obviously those, and then there's, like I said, there's one in 2018 that also does not have a title yet that's slated for release. Obviously, we might hear what those films are. So supposedly there's going to be a new Peter Pan movie released in 2019. I don't know. They might have some more stuff on that. That might be one they actually just that gets lost in the shuffle there, and they just want to push that back to 2020 or beyond. Then we've got Toy Story 4 that's supposed to come out in 2019 in June. They might have some stuff for that. It would just probably be just a little bit more details on story, maybe again some concept art that we'll hear about. That might be it. Okay, the next one we'll probably have a little bit more details on. That's The Lion King, the live-action remake of The Lion King, or as live action as they're going to be. We know Jon Favreau is going to be directing it. We know they've got James Earl Jones back. We've got Billy Eichner and Seth Rogen in there. We've got Donald Glover, Beyonce supposedly is in it. We never got confirmation on that. We might get confirmation that she's in it. We might get some more details on who else is in the cast, if they're bringing anybody else from the original animated film back. I think we'll probably get some details on that, actually. And again, we might have some concept art or even some early test footage that they might be ready to show the people at D23. Obviously, we're not going to see any of it for a long time. The movie doesn't come out for another 2 years plus, but it's still, kind of exciting to hear about that. Okay, then the last one we have for 2019 here is Frozen 2. And this one, supposedly, they've been working on for a while. So that one, again, maybe we'll hear about some more concept art. We might hear about maybe some new additional characters or cast members, story details, that kind of thing. But I doubt they're going to have any footage ready for that. Okay, so those are all the movies that are set for release. Now, here are some movies that are in the works or have been mentioned before that will probably get release dates. Some of these are the potentials. Because I said there's all these slots that they've listed here in the next couple of years that don't have a film in there yet, that don't have an official title yet. Here's potentially what could be some of them. The first one is a new version of Aladdin, a live-action remake of that. We've heard Will Smith is in talks to play the genie. That's about it. And Guy Ritchie's going to direct it. That might be one that gets slated for, say, 2019 or something like that. For a while, they've been talking about a kind of newer version of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Supposedly, the title would be Captain Nemo. This is one they've been bouncing around. I know Bryan Singer was supposed to do it at some point. Maybe they'll have a little bit more on that. We've also got Christopher Robin, which would be a new venture in the Winnie the Pooh universe. Now, I know we have a new film coming out. It'll be around Christmas time this year called Goodbye, Christopher Robin. That one kind of deals with A.A. Milne and the making of Winnie the Pooh. This might just be a new version of Winnie the Pooh or something like that. Supposedly, Ewan McGregor is in talks to be in it. Gemma Arterton is in early talks to play a part in the movie. Even Tom McCarthy is on board as a scriptwriter, and Mark Forster is in talks to direct. So maybe we'll get some final details on this one and a release date. Who knows? The next one could be very interesting, and that's a live-action version of Cruella. And I've heard they've had like Emma Stone in talks to do this. I don't know if she's still on board or not, but that could be very fun to see that. That's actually one where I think I'd like to see her take on a role like that. The next one, this is one we've been hearing all sorts of stuff about lately, and that's the live-action remake of Dumbo. Tim Burton's going to direct it, we know that. Will Smith was in talks to do it, but then he dropped out, and now he's going to supposedly be the genie. Tom Hanks, we don't know if he's in it or not, but we know Danny DeVito and Eva Green are in there, and Colin Farrell is also in the film. And now, supposedly, Michael Keaton is also going to be in it too. And we also know that filming is supposed to begin soon in England. That might be one that gets a maybe that's the 2018 one we haven't heard about yet, or it could be a 2019 one. So we'll figure out probably some details on that. We'll hear for sure if Michael Keaton and Tom Hanks and them, if any of those guys are in or out. We might hear more about that. We'll figure that out. We've also been hearing about a live-action remake of James and the Giant Peach. Now, supposedly, Sam Mendes was in talks to direct it, but instead, now he's attached to a live-action adaptation of Pinocchio. So maybe that one they might announce a new director, or maybe some more details on that. And then, yeah, the Pinocchio one, that's another one too, that could be remade there. Like I said, we got Sam Mendes there, and then Chris Weitz is also writing the script. So we might get some more details on that, or maybe we'll figure out that they're actually doing it and we'll get to know who some of the cast members could be. Now, supposedly they were going to do a sequel to The Jungle Book, so we might hear that Jon Favreau's next project after The Lion King could be the sequel to The Jungle Book. I'm not sure if we'll get more details after that or not. All right, then we've also been hearing, especially lately, about Jungle Cruise. Dwayne Johnson will be in the film. That's about it. That's about all we know. And they want to start filming next spring. No idea yet on who the director is or any of that, but it's based on one of the Disney rides. That, I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. A couple more that we're going to talk about here. They've been talking, actually for a little while now, on and off, about trying to do a new version of the Haunted Mansion. And that's one, if you do it right, it could be a great movie. And I've actually been on the ride at Disney World in Florida, and it still holds up to this day as kind of a nice little creepy ride, you know? So that would be one, if they can do a new version of it and do it right, I think that could be a fun film. And of course, The Little Mermaid. They've been wanting to do a live-action one of these even before the live-action remakes were popular again. So that's one we might finally hear some more details on, like who's directing it, who's writing it, who's doing what with it, potentially who could star in it. Okay, so that's all the Disney stuff from the live action, from their original production studios and all that. Next up, we're going to talk about the Star Wars stuff. Now, of course, Star Wars has been all over the news the last couple weeks with everything that's happened with the Han Solo movie. So what do I think is going to be there? Well, The Last Jedi likely will have some footage there. And when obviously any footage that they show there, those of us who aren't there are not going to see it for a long time. Well, not a long time, maybe a month or two. They might even have like a 5 or 10 minute scene. They might even have a behind the scenes featurette. That one might go live like on YouTube and stuff right after they show it. That could be it, because I don't think they're going to care too much if that gets out, or maybe they plan to release it. But I doubt we're going to get reports of like, they showed us 30 minutes, or I doubt they're going to do that. Yeah, so here's the thing. Are they going to do anything with Han Solo? For the moment, Han Solo was still slated for that May 25th, 2018 release date. We don't know for sure if it's going to keep that or not, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be a wild rush to get it done in time, especially if they want to do a lot of reshoots on it. We don't know for sure yet. They might show the audience there some concept art. They might show them some still photographs of like Alden Ehrenreich in costume, Donald Glover in costume, Woody Harrelson, maybe a few first looks into his character. They might even release some of the character names, and we might hear about who Emilia Clarke is playing, because we have the character names for obviously Lando and Han Solo and Chewbacca. Beckett is supposedly Woody Harrelson's name. We might hear some more character names like the Tandy Newton role, the Emilia Clarke role, the Phoebe Waller-Bridge role. Michael K. Williams and Ian Kenny are also in there. We might get their character names. Well, maybe that's all they'll have for that one. And they might just have a report, just a quick mentioning of it saying, and Ron Howard is Because at this time, they'll start shooting again this Monday. They might say, and they are on set again, and they're getting ready to do all that. And now the last one would be episode 9. I don't know if they'll have anything to show for that or not. They haven't started shooting on it yet. We'll probably hear nothing from that. The last couple things that we want to talk about here with Star Wars, are we going to hear anything about what's after episode 9? Because right now we have episode 8 coming out this December, supposedly Han Solo next May, and then the following May in 2019 is when episode 9 comes out. After that, we have no idea. Supposedly, they're supposed to do this episode anthology rhythm, which means an anthology film would come out next, supposedly around 2020 or maybe later in 2019. Now, we know Josh Trank was supposed to do the Boba Fett thing, but then that fell apart. And everybody lately has been speculating that Obi-Wan Kenobi is going to get his own spin-off film where it's set on Tatooine between episode 3 and 4. I don't know. I don't know about that one, because, it feels like a thing where we've been talking about it forever. They've been trying to coerce Ewan McGregor to say he's going to do it, and that it's on forever. I don't know if they're going to touch it or not. At least not right now. We might get an announcement about an Obi-Wan movie, but then again, we might get an announcement on something totally different. Because there was a report that came out a few months ago about John Knoll, who was a co-writer on Rogue One, saying that he's got an idea for a Star Wars film that's not connected to any known characters. At least that's the way the report was worded, or something close to that. So maybe that's the next anthology film, is something totally different, something we haven't seen yet in the Star Wars universe. All right, last one here. The Marvel stuff. Now, obviously, they just came out with Homecoming. So the next one, of course, is going to be Thor Ragnarok. We've already got a trailer for that. At D23, they'll probably show them more footage. I would almost guarantee that they're going to show more footage there. Because last time, that was before Civil War came out, they had kind of a demo reel, supposedly 3 or 4 minutes of footage of Civil War. We might get some reports of some very cool stuff from Thor Ragnarok. Also, Black Panther. Again, we've got a trailer for Black Panther. That, again, I would be shocked if they don't show maybe a quick 2 or 3 minute scene that's out of context, that's not going to be a huge spoiler or anything. Maybe we'll get reports of them seeing something like that, and maybe we'll get some more details on the plot of that movie. Then we get into Avengers Infinity War, which is still shooting right now. There's a kind of a bet going around of whether or not they're going to have footage from Infinity War ready to screen at D23. I don't know. It's a possibility. But right now, I would bet against it. I think they might hold off and just wait for everybody to see it at the same time in October. Because that's the way it works anymore. They have 2 weeks before their movie comes out, they put the trailer online, and then you can see the trailer in the theater with the movie. In that case, it would line up with Thor Ragnarok. Plus, supposedly, Thor Ragnarok is going to be the last film that's kind of the lead film into Avengers Infinity War, whereas Black Panther, chronologically, might not be in between those two. I'm sure we'll get some more stuff on that later, but right now I'm going to bet against them showing footage. And then we have Ant-Man and the Wasp. That's coming out after Infinity War, actually a couple months after Infinity War. We know Peyton Reed's back. A lot of the cast is back. So they just started shooting last month, so I doubt they're going to have footage, but you never know. They might have a quick little 1 minute demo reel. They might have some concept art that they'll show the people at D23. That's going to be about it. Obviously, the next 2 films after that are Captain Marvel and the 4th Avengers movie, whatever that's going to turn into. Captain Marvel, we know right now that Samuel L. Jackson's going to be in it alongside Brie Larson. And we know that Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck are the directors. That's about it. And they haven't started shooting yet. That's probably not going to start for another few months here. So again, we might get some concept art, maybe some cast announcements, but that's going to be about it. And then, the 4th Avengers movie, they're going to save any details on that until after Avengers 3 comes out. I'm sure. They're not going to spoil that. Okay, and then after that, there are a couple movies still in development, and those are Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and the sequel to Spider-Man Homecoming. Again, I doubt we're going to see anything from those. And obviously, if James Gunn supposedly right now is still writing up the script for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, or he's maybe going over it, so there's no concept art or anything from those either. So they might just say, we have plans to do them still. That might be it. Because it was right after they released the first trailer for Avengers Age of Ultron that they released their Phase 3 kind of ideas, like for what films are coming out and when they're coming out. Some people are saying we might get some more details on what's going to happen after the fourth Avengers movie and after Spider-Man Homecoming sequel and after Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Again, I think they're going to hold off on that until we get to the end of this current Avengers storyline with the Infinity War. Whether that's going to be in the Infinity War movie or in the fourth Avengers, we'll see how they handle it. All right, so yeah, that was a kind of big subject there. D-23 could be a very exciting thing where obviously we're not going to see any footage right away, but we could hear some very cool announcements and very cool reports on the footage that's there. Anyway, so that's all I got to say about that. Here's my review for Spider-Man Homecoming. Spider-Man is back on the big screen, and it's time for Homecoming. You know, when they announced that was the title, I was very concerned. It's not a great title. But as this film shows, sometimes the title of the movie has nothing to do with how good or bad the movie is. Anyways, I'm beating around the bush here. Spider-Man Homecoming is not just the best Spider-Man film we've gotten in over a decade. It's also my new favorite film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So the story picks up a few months after the airport battle in Captain America Civil War, where Spider-Man made his triumphant debut. Now under the eye of Happy Hogan and Tony Stark, Peter Parker is basically bored with his small ventures as the web slinger. However, one night while on the prowl, he busts some crooks with some dangerous high-tech weaponry. Eventually, Spider-Man comes to conflict with their leader, Vulture. Stark tells Peter to stay out of it and let others handle it, but Peter goes against his word and finds himself in an all-out war between himself and Vulture and his goons. And Peter learns that engaging them might not just bring his own destruction, but the destruction of those he cares about as well. While the plot of the film is kind of a laid back and feels at times a bit familiar, one thing that doesn't feel familiar is Michael Keaton's Vulture. One of, if not the biggest complaints I've had with Marvel's films is their lack of memorable villains. Outside of Loki, and to a lesser degree Ultron and Helmut Zemo, every other Marvel villain is a waste of time, just another obstacle for the hero to overcome. Now we finally have a villain with depth, motivations, memorable scenes, and memorable dialogue. It doesn't hurt that Keaton's a phenomenal actor who brings the character to life on the big screen. He's not just the intimidating figure of a bad guy, he's a genuine villain, and one that we can relate to at times as well. One of the biggest strengths, too, is the character of Spider-Man. While many films lately have featured heroes who find saving people are boring and would rather fight each other or brood, that's just not the case with Tom Holland's Spider-Man, who always has the joy of being a superhero and grows as a character. I'm a sucker for coming-of-age films when they're done very well, and the personal growth with Peter Parker was also done very well. I guess we can go back to the famous words of Uncle Ben, with great power comes great responsibility. Speaking of which, with the previous two Spider-Mans being played by Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, I felt that Maguire nailed the nerd aspect of Peter Parker, but once he got the suit on, he just didn't quite get there. And Garfield, while he had the physique of Spider-Man down, just didn't look the part of the nerd and wasn't the socially awkward Peter Parker. Tom Holland, however, molds the positives of the first two actors and nails it with the best version of the character we've seen on the big screen yet. One of the strengths with the film, too, are the action sequences. One that was very heavily advertised as a sequence in the Washington Monument. And seriously, it's the most thrilling sequence in a Spider-Man film since the train scene in Spider-Man 2. Also awesome is that ferry sequence, and a few little fights here and there. Going back to Vulture for a moment, another cool thing is his attack scenes, where he actually attacks like a vulture. I thought that was fun. And speaking of fun, there's a lot of callbacks to some John Hughes era films, some of which are more obvious than others. There's also a fair amount of laughs in the film too, as well as nice Easter eggs to connect back to the MCU, like Hogan and Stark's appearances, and there's a lot of other surprises that I won't spoil for you here, but trust me, they're not just comedy bits, some of them have emotion behind them that expand the continuing story of this ever-growing cinematic universe. Really, I don't have many complaints here. I mean, there's a few things here and there that bothered me, like that title, but like I said, the title of the film doesn't affect how good or bad the movie is. To cite a recent example, Star Wars The Force Awakens was one of my favorite films of that year, but I wasn't a fan of the title, like, at all. I still am not a fan of that title, but that doesn't automatically make the movie suck. With Spider-Man Homecoming, it's just not a title that I would have given the film if I were overseeing it. And I can joke that the sequel will likely be titled Spider-Man Prom, coming in 2019. I don't know, maybe they'll eventually go with that. Sorry, Internet. I guess that'll about wrap it up. There's some elements to the film that I would love to talk about, but in fear of spoilers, I'll have to get into those another time. right now I'm battling with myself trying to figure out if I prefer this film or Get Out as far as which one is my favorite movie of the year so far. It's that good. Right when everybody thought Spider-Man was played out after the failed films with Andrew Garfield, Tom Holland and Spider-Man Homecoming rejuvenate the character and my interest in him, and I hope we get a lot more adventures with him in the future on this level. By the way, 2017, it's turning out to be quite a year for superhero films. The Lego Batman movie charmed my socks off. Logan was a fitting end to Hugh Jackman's journey as the character. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 proved, to me at least, to be a better film than the original, and Wonder Woman brought the DCEU back from life support to a thriving future franchise. And if you want to count it, Captain Underpants, the first epic movie, was hilarious and a great family animated film. And with Spider-Man Homecoming, we are in for a very special year in the comic book genre. My rating is a 10 out of 10. So yeah, I loved Spider-Man Homecoming. Definitely see it. If you're on the fence about seeing it, go see it. It's fun. Great movie. And again, there's a lot of surprises in there. So yeah, try to avoid some spoilers here and make sure you go and see it. It's a great movie. All right, just a couple last things before we go. We'll have a show again on Monday. We'll talk about the weekend box office as we always do. And actually, D-23 does not start until next Friday, July 14th. So we might hear some stuff, and we might have some stuff in the podcast for next Friday. But I wanted to give that preview ahead of time because we never know what's going to happen between now and Monday. So in case I didn't have time for it on Monday, I wanted to give my preview on today's show. All right, so first of all, any ideas or suggestions you would like to bring up to the podcast about improving it or some things you like or dislike about it, you can leave a comment here on YouTube. Otherwise, I do have a Gmail account set up for the podcast. That's plagmanrulespodcast@gmail.com. That's PLAGMANRULES podcast@gmail.com. Again, you can leave any ideas or suggestions there. Also, any discussion points. You have something in mind or something that's been brought up lately that you want me to talk about that you haven't heard talked about on the podcast, you can recommend it. You can leave that in a comment here on YouTube or again, that Gmail address, a great place. I'll check it. If there are any suggestions for any discussion points or topics that you want discussed or you would like me to address, that's a good place to put them, and I'll definitely look those up here. All right, that's all I got for now. This has been the Plagman Rules Podcast. We'll check back with you guys on Monday. Have a great weekend.